1988, and you might tell me who you are, call letters, where you live, and just ramble on.
Well, I'm Bill Landby, W0DCM, and we get a kick out of a lot of the guys when we use the phonetics dogs, cats, and mice, and I expect probably those phonetics were hung on these call letters many years ago by my brother Leonard.
And what was his call?
Many of you might remember his call W0 ZPH, W0 Zebra Peter Henry. And he operated out of Swift in the after World War II, late 40s, and we've been on the air since that time also.
What bands did he operate at that time?
Oh, back in those days, principal band would have been 160 meters, but
Sure.
also 80 and 40 meter CW. We weren't permitted phone back in those days on those bands.
And how about yourself? What bands did you operate?
Same thing.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. And our voices were very much the same, and so whether we were in the same shack handing the mic back and forth, or whether we were on farms a mile and a quarter apart flicking one switch on and the other off, people didn't know
I see.
which brother they had.
Sure. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I remember him. I remember hearing him from Swift. And that. Were there any others over in the Swift area that operated?
No. There weren't any hams in Swift other than ourselves.
Who are the old timers from around Warroad here that you can recall? Call letters and names.
Oh, the oldest old timer in Warroad proper would have been W0FXV.
Right.
WA0CEL's dad, Lindsey Dunn, used to be on CW Spark here back in the 20s, but that's before
I see.
any time. I can't remember it. I wasn't aware of it at the time. Elmer Carlson, Bob's
Right.
W0KCP's dad, was the
Sure.
old timer, starting out in Roosevelt about 1928, and then coming to Warroad probably very early 30s, because I perhaps first heard him on a broadcast set with a so-called shortwave band on it in 19 about
Regenerative type set? Or?
No, this was an RCA Superhead, 2.5 volt tubes, and the old round top. It was table model cabinet. It was a good set.
Oh yeah.
And we could copy then W0FXV, and the amateur he would have been talking to a fair share of the time would have been 9CYY from Oak Island, a fellow named Fred Peterson. And I remember, and I heard him again here just the other day, 9YEQ, presently W0YEQ, Jim Lottie out in Jamestown.
Sure.
And 9GWM, Alvin from Clearbrook, is one of the old timers that we heard back in those days.
Sure.
9LBR Hig from Red Lake Falls.
From Red Lake Falls. That's who my cousin W9OTJ took his test from.
Oh yes.
W9LBR.
Oh yes. LBR had his antenna tied to a water tower, so he was very powerful in here.
Sure.
A fellow that we've followed over the years and haven't been able to meet personally is K0GQG. Now his original call was 9INS.
I don't know.
My memory, I didn't think I'd ever forget that, but I think it is 9INS. And he was generating his own power. At that time, his handle was Clarence, and he was living in Thief River Falls.
Yes, I remember meeting him one time. Now,
is that the right call?
I don't know about the call, but I also knew his son. I worked with his son with the telephone company. I'm trying to think of his name too, and I can't remember it. Orvis Nelson.
Okay, that sounds right. Yeah.
And I can't remember if Orvis was a ham operator now, but we worked together at the Baudette Air Force Base.
Well, Clarence is quite a fella. He's got to be real talented. We have worked him off and on. When I remembered him as 9 INS out of Thief River Falls. We weren't licensed then, didn't even bootleg, and that came later.
Okay.
But anyway,
Can you tell me some about W0VWD?
W0VWD was Andy Gilbert Anderson.
Okay, I'm also I'm thinking of a fellow Ivor Hansen.
VXD was Gilbert Anderson.
Right.
Ivor Hansen was Very Well Duck from Oak Island.
Right.
Yeah.
Where does he live now?
Ivor died, and it isn't perhaps over a year ago that he passed away in Portland.
Oh.
And I really felt bad because we've been in Portland 2 years, 2 springs hand running. A little less than a year ago we were in Portland, and then 2 years ago we were there. And had we looked for him 2 years ago, we could have seen him.
Oh, I see.
I did see Ivor in Phoenix some years ago. We visited he and Charlotte in the little travel trailer.
He had a resort or something up there at Oak Island?
He had Oak Island Resort, a family place at Oak Island, and he was the source of a lot of good humor.
The reason Ivor is important to me, he sent me the first QSL card I ever had.
Wow.
It was before I had a ham license. I had the opportunity to talk to him on my cousin's rig, W0OTJ, from Fargo, and he was using his, what was that? What kind of a rig was that? Common back then. It wasn't a Globe Trotter. It was not a Latine. Oh, I can't remember. And the harder I try, the worse it'll get.
My memory fails me on that one too. But I know that he would say that we must be getting out good today because we have a lot of standing waves on our feed line.
Oh yes.
And what else? Oh, you stopped in and you had a piece of homemade pie, and you'd compliment Charlotte on the pie. And he'd say, well, this is nothing. He said, you should have tasted the pie my first wife made.
Oh.
Now, things like this have
sure.
been passed along about Ivor. But he was a good scout. And I worked him on Mobile one night. I was driving out to a football game, and I heard this fellow with the accent. And it turned out to be Ivor. I worked him from Warroad to Phoenix on 20. And I never did go to the football game. I just sat there and enjoyed it tremendously.
Sure. Tell me about what you have here now. What are you using for a rig? For instance, what we were talking on a few minutes ago. What have you got there?
Oh, that is I haven't had it a long time. I got it from Ken over east of Bedennans, or HQL. He's graduated to more power and greater features. It's a Kenwood, and it's 25 watt all mode, 2 meter.
Sure.
And up in the air we have a 215 WB Cushcraft, horizontally polarized, and it's way up at the top, so it's about 65, 70 feet up.
Sure. And you're operating single sideband with that?
Single sideband. We have a gas-fed preamp that really makes the receiver come to life.
Uh-huh.
And we haven't had it on the air all that long or spent too much time at it, so we don't know a lot about it.
Sure. What about your other equipment here? All coming on over to your main rig for 75 and 20 and some of those bands. What bands do you usually operate?
A TS 830S Kenwood barefoot, and we have a Trilon rotor that is an old, this is the indicator of course, but the rotor is an old, I suppose even pre-World War II, a double worm affair with a capacitor starred motor in it. And it rotates a TB5ES Tel Rex tribander, 5-element tribander out of Asbury Park, New Jersey.
I see.
And up at above that, we have a vertical polarized antenna, a horizontal stack for FM, 2 meter FM, and then above that, the horizontal polarized Cushcraft for 2 meter.
What do I see up above the main rig you have there?
Well, a collection of things that aren't even in use.
Oh, I see. Okay.
There's a marine
That's a
radio
marine one that I'm
there,
looking at there. And then I see a gun set.
some old AM stuff, Gonset G66B
Sure.
and LMAC AF67 items that haven't been.
You used that in the car a bit, didn't you?
Yeah, but those things haven't been used for years.
Sure.
I have that friend I told you about, Ab K0CHZ on AM, and he's coaxing me to get some RF back, some AM RF,
Sure.
RF back on the band.
Okay. Do you do much mobiling now?
Only 2-meter FM. When we've been traveling with that little rig, the small motorhome, when we stop and we're more than overnight, I string an inverted V for 20, and I have a couple of 75-meter legs that I can tie on it. And we've had a lot of fun operating portable.
Sure.
That way. We last winter we were in Phoenix with it, and then Shoreview, Brownsville, Texas.
Oh, yes.
We find that having the results improve whenever we leave Warroad.
Oh, I see.
I've had different theories as to why that is, but it seems like you just it can be good here, but it seems to be more consistently good. We've done that from Los Angeles too, and it's fun.
Sure. You material. You've also got some old equipment. You've got that spark transmitter we saw in one of the pictures. Who was that? Was 9ZC's?
That belonged to John Gellhog,
Sure.
9ZC. Yeah.
When do you think that was made? About.
Well, we have a Sears Roebuck ham parts, component parts catalog that pictures this equipment, and it was I didn't happen to run across it as we looked through this old stuff, but it dates back prior to 1920. The catalog is in good shape.
Sure. You've got some other stuff here. You've got a receiver with some old 101A tubes and that type of thing.
Yeah, it's a portable, the RCA portable. I think everybody who was around back in the 20s or 30s would remember it as pictured in early ARRL handbooks.
Sure. What are some of the other old pieces of equipment you have? Are you planning on putting them into a museum or anything like that, or?
I don't really know what to do with them at this point.
Sure, sure.
They sure should be kept. They should be preserved.
Sure. Okay. Well, I guess that's about it then, unless you can think of anything else.
I appreciate you coming, Gordy.
Well, I appreciate you allowing me to record you.
It's been a long time since you were up here, and you were overdue. And as far as the old things are concerned, unless somebody comes around who is likewise interested, they just, so far have stayed in the box. But with retirement coming April 1st of this year, perhaps we'll get into things, get them cataloged and organized, and start to really appreciate them.
Sure. Again, your name, call letters, QTH.
Bill, W0DCM. We live here at Warroad. We started out at Swift many years ago. Very 70.